Welcome to the Mamas at Work podcast with your host, me, Heather Rose. I'm so excited you're here and I hope you're ready to learn because I have some amazing women coming on to this podcast to talk all about entrepreneurship and being a mom and how we handle it all and juggle it all and maybe even balance. I love to talk about people's passions and find out what makes them excited about what they do and hopefully help the rest of us feel not so alone. So let's get going. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Mamas at Work podcast with your host, Heather Rose. I have with me today Joanna Ingram, and she is a brand expert, and she helps people kind of guide their businesses so they're more aligned and they feel in touch with where their business is going. And I'm really excited to talk to you. So hi, Joanna.
Hey, Heather. Thank you so much for having me today.
Yeah, absolutely. We were just like chatting before we even started recording, and I'm just really excited to have this conversation because there's a lot going on with the business world, with the parenting world, with everything. I mean, let's face it, everything is kind of just nuts right now, right? Everybody's still scrambling, trying to figure out almost who they are, where they're going. And on that note, I would love to hear your story and how you got to where you are.
Absolutely. So I'm a former advertising agency director, turned business coach and brand messaging activator. And for me, it was a long journey. I was the good girl, the one that got all the grades, the oldest child, the first one to go to college in her family, did all the things.
Nice.
Yeah, I came out of university and got the big job at Ogilvy and Mather in the advertising agency with the river running through reception. And I thought that I'd made it. Fast forward a decade later, and I'd had my first daughter, which did not go smoothly. I'd thought that I would find a different direction and didn't, and ended up going back to work. I went back to work as a single mum, which I wasn't expecting. And it was easier just to go back into the job that I knew, even though it was already not lighting me up. And it wasn't until the pandemic came along in 2020 that the universe said, right, I've had enough of this. You say that you want to do something heart-centered, you feel called to coaching, go and do the coaching. And I was laid off from my big advertising agency job. And at that point, I was like, you know what? This is my destiny. It's time for me to do something for me, to do something that I'm going to love every single day. Mm. And that's when I launched into entrepreneurship, into business. But I have to say that it wasn't like a happy ever after. Far from it. Nope. No, I can see you shaking your head. You're like, of course it wasn't.
Nope.
And like 6 to 8 months in, I was completely burned out. I'd taken this striving, efforting, over-proving mentality that I'd had through corporate, and I just transferred it into my business, putting all this pressure on myself, having incredibly high expectations, working every hour until I just couldn't do it anymore. I was on that sort of launching roller coaster and doing all the things until by 8 months in, I was on my knees. I remember crying on the kitchen floor to my husband. I was just like, what have I done? This is not the dream. I'm spending less time with the kids than I ever have. And the point is, I'm supposed to be spending more time with them. Something's got to give. And for me, it was about leaning into energetics. I was always quite spiritual and woo-woo, and that had been getting more and more a part of who I was. But I was completely hiding in my business. Like that wasn't part of what I brought, part of my messaging, part of my offers. I was very much in the CEO strategy, accountability, productivity area at the time. And yet I had burned out. I was so out of alignment with what I was teaching and preaching and had to go within and really back to the divine feminine, understanding more about the law of attraction and spirituality. And at that point, I became certified as a pranic healer and became a breathwork facilitator and realized if this is who I am outside of work, why isn't this who I am inside work? I'm not in corporate anymore. I can do whatever I want. Yes. And at that point, everything changed. I brought my own authenticity and uniqueness as it is. It's enough into what I do and how I help. And that's what really allowed me to blend those proven advertising and branding strategies that I developed in corporate, but with a divine feminine flow, with ease, with fun, breath work, and energetics, and being in a community of like-minded spiritual sisters that kept me feeling amazing every single day and attracted clients into my world. So yeah, that's the trajectory.
Oh my gosh. No, well, you talk about, I ended up crying on the kitchen floor to my husband. I did that a couple of days too, because it just, this work, this, entrepreneur work, figuring out who you are in it and where it should go and everything, it's hard. I mean, I know I realize this now, but I don't think I did when I first started. I didn't hear a whole lot of people talking about how this is a grind. I mean, it is tough to figure that out. And it doesn't just like all become sunshine and daisies once you figure out, oh, actually I need to be more aligned with who I am as a person. It doesn't just immediately become easy, but it helps so much.
It really does.
Yeah.
It really does. And I love how you say that. It isn't like one day I woke up and I got the breakthrough job in, and the next week it was all easy peasy and I made loads of money and I didn't do any efforting and it was just a breeze. And I'm dialing in from the Seychelles right now. It wasn't quite like that. It's a process. And I'm the first one to say that I'm a work in progress. I have not got it all worked out. But as I teach my clients, that should never stop you from helping people that are yet to reach where you are in some way. And in fact, you're more qualified to help them than the big shot coach or the big shot entrepreneur that's 7, 10, 12 steps away from where those people are. And I've found that as I've dialed in authenticity and been able to be more vulnerable and admit when something's not going right or when I'm still working on something, it actually makes you so much more relatable, and people kind of really resonate with what you have to say in some surprising ways.
Yeah. Well, because it's more you, it's more real. I feel like we can tell when we are trying to, I don't know, like you said, trying to embody those coaches that are, so far ahead of us. And I know I started doing that because I fell in with people like that, and they're fantastic people. I love them so much, and I'm still, with them. But I was trying to be them when I was at step 1. I was trying to be step 50 when I was at step 1. And I wasn't listening to people who were at 4 or 5 because I'm like, well, they're not as far ahead as I want to be. Like, but wait, what? I'm at 1. Like, why should I be looking that far ahead if I'm all the way back here? And so having it's a crazy world right now. We have all this access to people, all this social media, all these ways to communicate. And so we're able to actually see people in all those steps when before, maybe all we saw was like Tony Robbins and, all these like big shots. And we're like, oh my gosh, I will never get to that. But now we have access to all these wonderful people like you, like me. And we're all just like, we're here, we're all still alive and we're just plugging along. We're not, I don't know. I think it's really kind of an interesting world right now.
Oh, it sure is. And you just reminded me, because I went to UPW, Tony Robbins' firewalking training. And he was in London in 2019. And it was a massive turning point for me to be at that event. And I stood, 2 meters, a few feet away from Tony on the firewalk. And I'm like, oh my God, this is insane. And it was insane. I took my husband along. And as a family, it really started to change the way that we were showing up in family life. And my husband's launching his business this year. And I think that getting in the vibration of somebody that's so influential is an amazing gateway to the industry, to self-help, to energetics or whatever it might be. But to your point, Heather, if you actually want to implement work, sometimes it's so much more useful to work with someone who is has such a vested personal interest in getting you to the next 3 steps.
Yes.
And of course, once you've done that, you grow too. You're able to work with different people. They grow, and sometimes they're still a good match for you. And I've definitely found that to be the case with my own mentors and with my clients, that it's just a great synergy.
Yeah. No, it really is. I love that so much. And like I said, I think it's a really interesting time, and it's a difficult time for a lot of us. And we're all in this together. Like, I really feel that. And I really appreciate people like you doing what you do, because it can be hard to feel, I mean, it can be so isolating to be in this work, and to have people like you to come along is really wonderful.
Oh, that's kind. Thank you.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, okay. So we also talked about this. I have been focusing a little bit more on motherhood in this season. And so I want to talk about your motherhood journey as well. I know you have 3 children.
I do. 3 girls.
Yeah, 3 girls. And so you have like an older teenager and then 11-year-old twins.
That's right. My eldest just left for college.
Oh my gosh.
She's 18 years old now.
Oh my gosh. Oh, how does that feel? Like I said, my kids are 8 and 9, so I'm like, oh boy.
Oh my God. As you asked that, I suddenly came over feeling all tearful. So clearly the answer is, I'm still getting used to it.
Yeah. I mean, it hasn't been long.
She's in Liverpool, which is, 5 hours drive from where I am in London. And yeah, it's a big change, definitely. And starting a business when your children are younger is a different situation. But I have to say, with the twins at 11, they're kind of what do we like to call them? Spirited. They're very spirited. So
they're that like middle school age.
They really are. And they've got a lot going on in their lives. And it's a real juggling act to make yourself available to build your business whilst also staying true to your why. And I know that most people listening are going to be just like me, and I'm sure you're the same, Heather, which our why is our kids and our families.
Yeah.
Like, why are we trying to run a business and be a success and make more money and have flexibility? Because we want the family dream of being able to spend more time with our kids, having that overflow of income for experiences, and create a better life than perhaps we experienced. And the reality can be so different at times that coming back to that why is always an important filter about how we structure our weeks, what we say yes to, what's aligned for us, what our truth is. And it's okay to go off quite a lot, because it happens, but the power is in always coming back.
Yeah, because you can get really distracted. Like we said, looking at those coaches that are so far ahead of us, you can get really distracted from, do I actually want to be that? Like, do I want to be the next Tony Robbins? Which that will never happen. Don't try to be next Tony Robbins. Just be you, and you could be the next you. But like, do I actually want that life? Or is what I want just more family? Or is what I want to travel with my kids? Like, what is it that is so important to you? Why are you doing this? And it's so, I've heard this so many times since starting my entrepreneur journey, like, find your why. What's your why? And it can be like, I was a stay-at-home homeschooling mom before I started. And so like my everyday was my family. And so when I started the entrepreneur journey, I'm like, well, it can't be my family, because that's what it was when I was, not doing anything. I said things about that, like that about myself, but that is so not true. It is a stay-at-home homeschooling mom. You're doing a lot, but like, it's taken me a while to realize, no, like, what, I just want to be with them. I just want to see them grow up and have fun experiences with them, and have the time freedom and the financial freedom to be able to do things that are just good for us.
Yeah, but I kind of want to say something that I feel very called to say.
Yeah.
And this is that having the why as your family and adoring your children is obviously wonderful, but it's also okay to have your own ambitions. And I realized when I was focusing on my why, and I was working with my life coach at the time, and I was saying about my kids and how much I wanted the experiences with them. And she pushed me. She was like, what else is hidden behind all of that? And I realized that I really operate from a place of feeling so proud of myself and worthy when I achieve. And rightly or wrongly, I've carried that through my narrative through corporate of being someone that likes to have some success, and understood that building the business was for all the right reasons for my family, but also for a very personal reason, to create a legacy, to create something that I feel proud of. And I'll take it even further, to create something authentic and unique that genuinely lights me up. You know, when I get to my desk every morning in my home, I love it. I'm like, I cannot wait. I love to open my inbox. I love to create a workshop. I love to coach my clients. I love to record on podcasts. How much fun. Yeah. Even though there's a lot of hard work and hard graft, when you're doing something that truly lights you up and you feel called to do. And when I discovered that actually this brand messaging piece and helping women find their authenticity in their message, so they feel completely aligned with their own business and have that courage to show up and shine and sell and be brave. Yeah. That for me, it's thrilling. So having that blend as a mum has, really been something that's unlocked a lot for me. And next week I'm off to Lisbon.
Oh my gosh.
A business retreat. It's my second time this year. And I'm like, hell yeah. I'm going to get the best part of a week away from the kids with some other women who are doing the same as me. Most of them are mums too. And we might have a few glasses of wine, a couple of late nights even. And having that beautiful blend of being able to be all those things is a big part of my why too.
Yeah, because we're whole people. We have multiple different facets. And I really like that you said that, because as I'm coming back to my why of wanting to be with my kids and all of that, because when I first started, I was like, okay, my why has to be, I have to find my independence as a person, which was good for me because I needed to do that. I didn't feel like a whole person outside of my kids, which is unhealthy for me. It's unhealthy for them, for my husband. Like, it's not good if I don't cultivate my identity outside of just being a mother. And so I did have to do that. And then, of course, in true human fashion, I was like, okay, well, let's take that to 100. Let's just completely, I'm barely a mom anymore. No, but still I had to okay, no. I don't have to completely turn away from everything that I believed in and everything that I loved.
Yeah, so true.
Yeah. So it's so funny how I feel like we started here and then we just kind of crossed, and now we're kind of both in the middle. You gotta find the, oh gosh, this is such a cliche, but you gotta find the balance.
Yeah, you do. You do. And it isn't easy or natural to just be balanced. And sometimes you're going to be one way and one time you're going to be another way. I mean, I know when my kids say, are you working again this evening? It's a real wake-up call. And I do sometimes struggle with that because a lot of my clients are stateside and I'm UK, which is 5 hours behind Eastern, 8 hours behind Pacific. So it's really easy for me to drop client calls into the evening because that's the natural time that we cross over. So I'm setting an intention to try and pare that back more as I go forward, but also to balance my week a lot better so the kids have that support. But on the upside, I'm here every day when they come in from school. Whereas when I worked in corporate before the pandemic, I was at the office. I'm not sure. Yeah. They've only just gone to high school. We don't have middle school, but they've gone up from the kind of cocoon nest safe, junior schooling into the big school. And I don't know how I would have done that in corporate. I guess they'd have had a key. Or, I mean, I know that when my eldest used to come home from school, that was exactly what she did. Although I'm not sure if the twins, I'd have trusted them in the house in the same way. The kids are very different from each other, right? They're not all the same people.
They totally are.
So pros and cons, definitely.
Right. Well, and it's important to keep that front of mind. All of your whys. I mean, and let's face it, we're women. We don't focus on just one thing at a time. Like we have multiple, like I said, multiple facets. We have multiple whys. Like, why are you doing this? And it's important to come back to all of them.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, so you have the oldest one in college, and you have the two twins, and that's really interesting because it's such a different time of life than I am right now. My kids are in elementary school and, coming home on the bus every day and everything. And like, what was it with the older teenager, especially? How, with starting the business and everything, how was that?
Well, she's super proud of me. It's like when I get a success in my business, or I now she's at college, but she was in her bedroom and I'd be like, hey, Kitty, that's her name, obviously. I'm like, guess what? This just happened. She'd be like, Mummy, I'm so proud of you. And
oh my gosh.
It just made me think, like, creating something that I really love and following my path of joy, not every minute of every day in my business, but following the vision is something that I want my children to see. I want my daughters to know that getting the big job because you think you should isn't something that I would want them to do. I want them to do something that they want, no matter what. And in fact, my daughter's studying nursing at college right now with the ambition of being a career nurse. So
that's amazing.
That's very different from what I would have wanted to do for myself. And I was like, are you sure? That sounds like hard work.
Right.
Like, when she's like,
more power to her.
I'm like, that's what I love to do. I want to be in the midst of emergency situations, keeping a cool head, saving lives, doing my thing. I was like, well, I guess I'm doing something right. If that's her following her path, not being influenced by my thoughts about whether I would want to be a nurse, but instead just following the breadcrumbs, following her desires and showing up no matter what. So yeah, no, I'm hopeful that the twins are going to do the same. And it's by modeling that I get the opportunity to see that they can follow a passion. It's not follow me, do what I've done. It's follow my vision of doing what lights you up.
Well, and it's because you did listen to that and you did go for it, like that they're able to see that. And that's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Well,
it really
is. And like, like you said, don't go for that giant job if you think that's what you have to do. But if that's what you really want to do, go for it. You're not gonna, I think it's really interesting, this like way of life of being an entrepreneur is there's the freedom, with our kids, we're not just like, oh, I want you to be an entrepreneur. No, like I really wouldn't wish this on anybody, actually. It's a wonderful life, but like it's really, really hard. But there's a difference to following your heart and following where your life should go. And if what if one of your twins decides they want that huge job that you had and they actually want it? Like that's what they want. Like that's fantastic. And I love that it's not like, oh, well, Mommy actually did this business and I was hoping you would take it over when I got older, like kind of thing,
Yeah, it's so true. And I guess the other message is that it's okay to change your mind. It's okay to switch at any time. Just as I'm saying it, I'm thinking, oh, don't spend all that money on college and then immediately decide you want to do something different. But we're just complex humans, right?
I know. Like that's always oh no, once that happens.
Don't do
but
that.
If it does, you'll deal with it and it'll be fine.
Well, this is it. It's being open to the intuition and the guidance that comes through. And that's been a big part of my journey into this more spiritual approach, which says that you can relax and and go easy and just listen to guidance, do something that feels fun, even if you can't understand exactly how it's going to develop, and watch, I like to call it like the breadcrumbs, follow them and see what happens next and what happens next. And I certainly wouldn't have envisaged when I first launched my business that I'd be helping in the way that I do now. But I had to do what I did then to see the contrast, to understand what wasn't working, and then allow what is working to unfold. And yeah, it's taken longer than I wanted. No doubt. It's taken longer. And has it been harder than I wanted? Oh yeah. Has it taken more twists and turns? All true. But I think that the other thing that's really authentic is that it has led to real great connections. It's led to experiences that I wouldn't have anticipated. And it's created opportunities for me to work with people that I never thought I could get in a room with people like this. And now I get to work with people like this. It's so amazing. And that has been a process of allowing my own personal elevation, allowing my mindset to say, I am enough. I'm not an imposter. I'm not fearing being judged, and just keep pushing courageously forward until suddenly things drop into place, not all at once, bit by bit. And the journey, well, this was a big insight. The journey is the joy. It's not, I mean, the destination, we all want it.
Yeah.
But the enjoyment of the journey is actually what gets you to the destination. And when you're in the struggle in the journey, the destination just gets further and further away all of the time. You wouldn't recognize it even when you got there, let's be honest.
Yeah. Because was it really what you wanted once you got there? If getting there was so not for you. Because when you are working towards something that is for you, and like you said, you enjoy the journey and realize that every part of it has a purpose, right? All the people that you meet, all the experiences that you have, they all have a purpose. And we can get so lost in just focusing on that goal that we forget to look at everything around us. And that's where most of our time is going to be spent. So let's enjoy it.
Exactly. You know, if you get in the energy of just pushing, efforting and struggling all of the time, when you hit what you thought was your goal, I don't know, let's call it 5K months or 10K months, or, you know, the typical ones that so many entrepreneurs pick for themselves at the beginning, and you get there and then your brain won't celebrate it. It won't acknowledge it. You'll be like, oh yeah, whatever. What I really want is then fill in the gap, the next level. Yeah, I wanted that, but not like this. I wanted it to look like that. And it's because you're in that energy of striving that you will continue to strive. And it's about creating the joy in the journey so that when you reach every milestone, you recognize it, acknowledge it, celebrate it, appreciate it, and are able to move on to the next one with, you know, that flow that wouldn't come otherwise.
Just having more joy in all of it. I love it. Well, since my audience is young mom entrepreneurs, is there any kind of last bits of wisdom that you have for these women who are really like in the weeds of motherhood, of entrepreneurship?
I just think it's such a precious time, and I'm a little bit older, and I'm super admirable of women doing it when their kids are young. But there's a real grace and opportunity in that, because you get to define really early on in your family life, in your kids' life, what you want that to look like. And you haven't wasted all those years doing something you didn't want to do while your children were young and hustling in that way. So I just want to say, appreciate yourself, give yourself a little pat on the back, and gaze into the mirror, into your own eyes, and say, you got this. I'm like really super proud of yourself. Do that, because it's something that I'm super proud of anyone that's doing it at that stage of life.
Yeah. Oh, I appreciate it so much. And I've loved this talk so much. Can you please tell everybody where to find you? I will have links in the show notes, but like, where can they reach out to you and work with you or just talk to you?
Absolutely. I hang out on Instagram. I'm called at iamjo.ingram. That's jo.ingram. You can also find me on my podcast, Goals with Soul. And if you are a coach and you want some messaging advice, I do a free messaging assessment. So just DM me over on Instagram and I'll be happy to share the details.
Oh, I love it. Well, thank you so much, Joanna. I really appreciated you being on Mamas at Work today.
Super fun. Thanks so much, Heather.
Thank you for joining me for today's Mamas at Work podcast. I am so glad you were here, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did and learned a lot, because I know I always do. Please join me at my Mamas at Work Facebook group, where we will be talking about the women that are on this podcast, and you can sign up to be a guest on the podcast as well if you would like to. Thank you so much. See you next Friday.